Hi, I'm Rick Kaler. Thanks for joining me. If the government can take 15% from NVIDIA, who's next? This month, the U.S. government demanded a direct cut of a company's foreign sales as the price for letting those sales happen. The tech companies NVIDIA and AMD had been stuck in regulatory limbo over selling their newest AI chips to China. According to an August 12, 2025 Reuters article by Karen Fryfield, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang had even received a public green light for the company's H20 chip, but the Commerce Department would not issue the export licenses. The stalemate ended only after Huang met with President Trump and agreed to a deal. The licenses would be granted, but the U.S. Treasury would get 15% of all H20 revenue from China. AMD agreed to the identical terms for its MI308 chip. 2 days later, both companies had their licenses. Now, if you think about it, the numbers here are staggering. Bernstein Research estimates NVIDIA could sell $15 billion worth of H20 chips in China this year, and AMD about $800 million of their MI308s. That's more than $2 billion flowing straight to Washington, not as taxes, but as a contractual price for market access. The legality of this arrangement is highly questionable, and the deal also raises security concerns. It's worth noting the administration's first ask here was for 20% before settling on 15%. This wasn't a polite request, but a take it or leave it demand. Now, from a behavioral economic standpoint, the decision was predictable. The pain of losing an entire market is far greater than the pain of losing a fraction of it. Now, how is this then really different from any tariff? Well, there's an important difference here. A tariff is a standardized, legally defined tax that applies broadly to certain goods and is collected under public trade policy. This 15% cut is a one-off. It's privately negotiated and is aimed at just two companies tied to export license approval. It's quite different from a tariff. And in addition, it's also taken from gross revenue, not profit, meaning the government gets paid on every dollar of sales before the companies cover a single expense. Tax farming is an old practice where the state sold the right to collect taxes for a fixed sum, allowing the collector then to keep the rest. Its use in France made some people enormously rich, made everybody else furious, and eventually helped spark the French Revolution. Similar systems to tax farming appeared in the Ottoman, Egypt, in China, in the early Dutch Republic, until abuses finally brought them down. Now, the NVIDIA-AMD deal is not exactly tax farming, but it is a similar shift in the government's role. It's no longer just regulating. It is stepping in as a business partner, taking a direct share of private sales. And I wouldn't call it arm's length. It is more demanded and coerced. Supporters might call it a smart use of national leverage. Critics will see it as a step away from free market capitalism towards something more political and transactional. Nor is this deal a one-off. In June, the administration approved foreign investment in U.S. steel only after securing a golden share that gives it veto power over strategic corporate decisions. History teaches us that once a government finds a way to take a cut, it rarely stops at one sector. Today it's steel, then it's AI chips to China. Tomorrow it could be pharmaceuticals, and energy or consumer goods. What's the likely impact then for average Americans? Why would an average American care? Money flowing to the U.S. Treasury from a source other than taxpayers seems like a great benefit. Yet any company required to give away 15% of its gross revenue, which could equal its entire profit to some companies, and in some cases even more, has to compensate in some way. And the most likely result is higher prices. Hiking prices on computer chips sold to China might not seem to be a big deal till you consider that many of the products that use those chips are sold to us, U.S. consumers. Thanks for listening.